All right, guys, welcome back. You might recognize this person. I'm sure you will. This guy's a marketing legend, online marketing legend. Stu McLaren, man. Welcome to the show. How are you? I'm excited.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. Good to be here.
Yeah, so I'm sure people are familiar with you. I know a lot of people, but kind of for those that don't know, give us like the 30-second elevator pitch. We want to get into a lot of content because we got a lot to talk about here. I know we got a short period of time to do it, but high level view for those that are just meeting Stu McLaren. Who are you? What do you do?
So, my focus is helping entrepreneurs add more recurring revenue to their business through membership sites. So we basically have two sides to our business. One side is the training side. This is where we teach how to go about launching and growing profitable membership sites. And then the other side is the software side. This is where we provide the tools and resources to make that easier. How I got here was essentially I had a really successful consulting business, but it was limited by the amount of time that I could give. And the only way to grow the business was to give more time, and I didn't have any more time. And so I was looking for more leverage in how I could share what it is that I know. That's when a friend turned me on to the idea of a membership. And this was back in 2008, and I had no idea what that meant. But I started going down that path and found it really difficult, like really, difficult especially from a tech standpoint. And I was like, man, this is frustrating. And I was, venting to a friend of mine who said, well, what would you do if you could create the ultimate solution? And I started, brainstorming. And I was like, oh, I would do this and I would do that and I would do this. And he said, so why don't you? I was like, dude, I'm struggling with the tech. Like, there's no way I can create a solution. And he said, why don't we team up and do it together? We did. That ultimately became the world's #1 membership platform for WordPress. It was called Wishlist Member. And we went on to serve literally tens of thousands. When I sold my interest in that company, we were powering over 70,000 online communities and memberships. So being behind the scenes of that's where I learned like what works and what doesn't as it relates to growing profitable memberships. And that's what's brought me to where we are today, where that's what we teach is how to do that successfully by using the best practices, no matter what market you're in. And we serve customers in all kinds of clients and markets, from photography and calligraphy to fitness and finance and music and art and health and dog training and physical products, services, you name it. That's where we are, and that's what we do today.
I think it's such a powerful thing that I think we've become so indoctrinated at this point in time as a society to really understand the subscription model. I mean, look at all the new streaming services and Netflix, and I mean, even Instacart. Like, you pay a nominal fee for access to something that would have maybe costed you thousands and thousands of dollars before. I think one of the big challenges people have, Stu, now is so two things. It's maybe becoming a little saturated, and or I hate that word, so I want to somewhat retract it. But I think people tend to view, like, I pay $9 for Netflix. I think it's actually more than that. They keep raising the price, right? At some point, I'm going to be paying $125 a month for Netflix. But I've noticed that when it comes to like info products or things that are more online business owner related, there maybe is an expectation that, oh my gosh, I'm used to paying $9 to $15 for membership, and now they're asking for $149 a month. Have we kind of sophisticated the market to such a degree with memberships, or with subscription models rather, that it's kind of a detriment to what we're trying to do with online business information products? And how do you overcome that?
Well, I think you bring up a really good point. And the point is making the distinction between what like a Netflix and a Spotify do versus like an information-based membership that's helping people make progress in some area of their life. Netflix and Spotify are amazing because they provide entertainment, and it's just like a big old library of entertainment, right? And so when we want to dive in, we can dive in. But what a membership in the form that we're talking about is doing is we're helping people make progress in some area of their life. And the reason I love it is because it's the ultimate accountability as a business owner. Because if people aren't making progress, then guess what? They're going to leave, right? And 9 times out of 10, by the way, the #1 reason that people cancel from a membership is not that the content isn't any good. It's just that they're overwhelmed by the sheer volume of content.
That's kind of why I said saturation, right? It's just so much with their, I got subscriptions all over the place.
Yeah, like I'll give you a real practical, example of this. Like, I see you got a beautiful, studio behind you, right? And I'm in the midst of right now, like, redesigning my home studio.
Cool.
And so I'm on YouTube and I'm watching a whole bunch of videos. I'm doing all the searches like, home video studios, and I'm watching all the videos and I'm getting some ideas and I'm making notes. But at some point I stopped and I'm just like, I just want somebody to tell me how to bring it all together.
Exactly.
Like, okay, just give me like my step-by-step roadmap here. You know what I mean? To go from no studio to a beautiful studio. And so I started asking, I'm like, who do I talk to? And then my friend Dana, she's like, oh, you just need to go to livestreamingpros.com. They got a membership, you sign up, and they've got all kinds of plans to walk you through the process.
Right.
Done. Easy peasy. So what am I paying for? I'm paying for speed, I'm paying for ease, and I'm paying for convenience. That's what people are paying for. They're not paying for you to load them up with a whole bunch of information. They're paying you to go from where they are to where they want to be faster and easier. So whereas Netflix and Spotify are awesome because they've certainly expanded the market's awareness of subscription models, they're entertaining. That's a completely different type of membership. What we're doing in an information-based membership is we're educating and supporting people in getting a transformation. That might be a transformation in their health. That might be a transformation in their relationship. It might be transformation in skills, whether it be learning to play the guitar, learning to grow a business, learning to paint or draw, whatever it might be. I
think you say something that's really important, and I want to highlight it, is that you have to sell the transformation, because I think some people sell memberships as the feature, and thus they end up comparing themselves to things that they're familiar with, meaning the customers, right? They're not selling like you get utility out of Netflix, but it doesn't have utility to provide an ROI in your life that's measurable. Right. And I think people don't necessarily sell that transformation to the degree that it puts them out of the category of a subscription that they're familiar with, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And one of the things that we teach a lot is something that we call the success path. And really what it does is it helps people get the clarity of that journey. So like, where are people now? Where do they want to be? And what are the steps they need to take to be able to go from where they are to where they want to be? And, you know, when we teach like in terms of courses and presentations and webinars and stuff like that, we're giving people information, which is great. Like, because when we make progress, it's equal parts learning and also doing. And where people get stuck is on the doing side of things. So what a membership does is it helps bridge that gap. It's not only are we teaching, yes, but more importantly is that we're supporting people in the doing part of it. So this is why less information is actually a better experience in a membership. Because if all people are doing is learning, they have no time or space to be able to do. So it's equal parts learn and do. And that's what a membership is all about, is creating that clarity of what does this journey look like to be able to create that transformation in their life. And then supporting people all along the way and giving them the clarity of like, forget everything else. Right now, based on where you are, just focus on these few things.
Got it. Okay. You advocate for something that I'm a big fan of and that I have adopted, and that is to have both one-off, like you buy it, you own it, flagship type programs, right? You just pay pay a fee and you own it for life, versus also, and then having a hybrid of also including memberships in addition to that. For one, how do you discern personally, like this content makes sense for membership, this makes sense to sell as one-off, right? How do you first make that determination?
I think this is a great question. I don't think there's a right or wrong path here. You know, what I love to do when I'm providing information in a course or like a mini course, as an example, is I'm really looking to deliver information, teaching people what to do and how to do it. But the distinction that I make with a membership site is I'm really looking to support people in the implementation of what I've taught. So this is why it's never a scenario of should I do a course or should I do a membership? Right. I, in fact, think they should be hand in hand together. If you have a course, you should also 100% have a membership, because what that does is like people are when they're in course mode, they're in learning mode. They're learning. But then when the course ends, this is typically where people begin implementation, and this is where they need the support the most. And what you'll find is your students will make more progress. You'll experience more success stories than ever when you have a membership on the back end that supports people in the implementation of what you've taught them.
I totally agree. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this too, because I have found that there seems to be a little bit of a different psychological perception of the continuity / membership when it's bolted onto like a core flagship offer. So they pay $2,000, let's say, and then they pay a fee to be involved with a membership as a continuity of whatever that core content involves. I have seen a difference in psychologically how the customer views that membership versus if they just found a membership without first buying that flagship program. Have you seen that?
100%, because they understand the value of what they've just learned and they understand the value of the transformation. But there's still that gap of like, okay, I know what to do, but now I got to go do it. Right. And so they, it's way more, they're way more accepting of a membership. So I'll give you an example. Like the way in which you frame this up is after somebody comes to the end of the course, during the course experience, I just encourage people who are delivering the course to just focus all your energy on just helping people experience as much progress as possible during the course itself. Because if they experience progress, when you come to the end, you can reflect back on, like, look at how much progress has been made during the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. Now imagine if you were in this environment all year long, and imagine the progress that would be made if we were together all year long. It's like a no-brainer. Like, so for example, like in our community, after people come through our tribe experience, there are stories after stories, like nonstop every single week of people launching their memberships and experiencing success. And so it's really easy to reflect back and say, oh my gosh, like let's celebrate like how much has happened during this 10 weeks. And just imagine what would happen during the next 12 months if we stayed together in this environment. So it's really easy for people to see what's possible when they've just experienced what's possible on a much smaller scale. So having a membership on the back end of a course is a no-brainer, not only for your students, but also for your business.
Sure. Now, that all said then, would you go direct? And it's probably case by case. I'm sure this is going to be your answer, that it's case by case depending on what it is you actually sell, right? There's going to be certain things where going direct to the membership and not having a course offering first, it doesn't make sense. But as a general rule with what you do you typically then not just go direct to membership, making them first go through a course and then bolt on membership?
It's really a strategy question, because when you're thinking about memberships, you got to ask yourself, is this a front end membership or is it a back end membership? So what we've been talking about with memberships coming after a course, that's a back end membership. That's a different role. That plays a different role in the business than a front end membership. A front end membership is more of a way to bring people into your world. So I'll give you an example. Like Christy Hawkins, okay? She's got two different memberships. One that she started with is more of a back-end membership. It's a higher price point, $50 a month. She's teaching people how to paint in that membership. And she's got thousands of members in that. But she also saw a gap, which was there were a lot of people that were interested in painting, but weren't joining the membership at $50 a month because they weren't sure they were ready for it yet. So she introduced a front-end membership, which is much more scaled down, much more basic in terms of introducing concepts and really introducing people to the world of painting for the first time. And so she launched that and has since welcomed thousands of members into that, which naturally feeds into her higher price programs where people want to go deeper, or her other membership where people want to take it up to another level. So they each have a purpose in the business, but they're different setups in terms of the structure of the memberships.
But you would decide if one is a back-end membership and it's never sold as a front end versus this other membership is a front end and not a back end, and they would stay in that bucket, so to speak.
100%.
Okay, that's a good clarification.
Clarity. Is this a front end membership or is this a back end membership?
Right.
Because
I think
the
that's
strategy
smart.
that you have for each is different.
Yeah. Yeah. There was an issue where I had one like that, and it's like the way we indoctrinated them through a course into the membership, it was hard to control the environment if somebody came in as a front end member, right? Because it was like you needed the context of what the course provided, and we found that those people were churning out really, really quickly because they didn't understand or have the like I said, the context of what the course entailed to be able to really fully appreciate what was in the back end membership.
Yeah, and they probably haven't gone through like that, the experience of learning the language and getting the fundamentals down. And when you're referencing things, they're like, what? And then existing members are getting frustrated because they're asking all basic questions. We're just like, we've covered this before, so totally. So if
you're starting out, then I know a lot of people, membership is really appealing. I think specifically those, and maybe I found this a lot with some of our students, they like the idea of having it evergreen, right? They like the idea of having recurring revenue, which is amazingly appealing, especially when you have global events like a pandemic happen, when you've got recurring revenue and Facebook's doing whatever Facebook's doing and things are in turmoil. I like that. But would you suggest, I'm starting from scratch. I just learned who Stu McLaren is. I'm listening to this podcast. Would you suggest that they focus on first building a flagship course, right? Somebody owns it for life, that's it, or however long you want to have a year access or whatever the case may be, and then figure out what a membership looks like? Or can they start with a front-end membership as a flagship offer to start?
Yeah, I think you can do it either way. I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer, but what I want to encourage everybody to do is to make a decision. The more you spin, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I go this way, that way? You're wasting time. Like, one of the things that I want to see is I want to see people go from the idea to the implementation as quickly as possible. Because here's the thing with a membership, whether it's a front-end membership or a back-end membership, I guarantee you this, it is going to change based on you interacting and working with your members. So you can spend all the time in the world trying to think through the absolute pinpoint perfect experience for your membership, but within a month or 2 months, it's going to change because you're going to see through working with people like, okay, wait a minute. This deliverable is not really landing. People are getting stuck here. This is where I got to shift gears. And so you begin to dial in the experience once you have members that you're working with. And it's not like a book where, if you publish a book and you find a mistake, you can't go and take all those books off the bookshelves. With a membership, it's the complete opposite. It's very fluid. It's changing all the time. And you have that ability. So I encourage people, whether it's a front-end membership or back-end membership, you've got to get started early, and you do that with a simple founding member launch. It's the fastest, easiest way to float an idea out there, and it's where you don't have everything created, but you're creating it with those founding members. They get locked in at a low price for as long as they remain a member, but in exchange, you get real people to be able to work with and to refine the idea, and that in and of itself creates momentum for you. It creates momentum for them. And then you're equipped with these amazing stories of people making progress, which is your most valuable marketing asset, bar none. So whether they go front end or back end, or whether they start with a course, just get started and get moving, because that's the most important piece of the puzzle.
All right, so I'm going to throw another conundrum at you here. So they do what you just said. They build a front-end membership. They overbuild it. Not that I'm speaking from experience or anything here. I promise this is not an anecdote. I promise. I totally promise. But they end up overbuilding. The price point that they're at is no longer justified for the value that's being delivered. Yet, given it's a front end, there's an expectation as far as what that's priced at. Is it just a matter of how you're presenting the offer, or should you somehow shift it to a flagship course offering, or how would you address the situation? Because I see this a lot when people, they start off, they do what you just said, they overbuild, and then it's like, well, now what do I do with it? Because I'm kicking my butt, for building this thing as big as I did and serving to the level that I am, and I'm not getting compensated the way that I should for it, and I'm way undercharging compared to what the market dictates. What do you do in that situation?
I think it's a reframing of what that experience looks like. Like, at the end of the day, I would just say this. None of us are going to make changes to our membership because we believe it's going to create a worse experience for our members. Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, we're going to make changes to the membership because we believe it's going to create a better experience for our members. So we always got to stay centered in on that and realize that your relationship with your members is that it's a relationship. So it's about communicating, where the membership is, where you want to take it, and the experience you want to create, and involving your members in that process. So what I would say to the person who has created a membership that maybe has got more value in it than what they're charging for, there's a couple options. Like, one, you just simply raise the price, right? And that in and of itself is a built-in promotion, like that very effective promotion, which is basically like, join before this date and you'll be locked in at the current price. After this date, the price goes up. Those are some of the best promotions you can do because people don't ever want to give up a good deal. It also is very valuable from a retention standpoint for the same reason. Like, if I'm
not leaving.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm paying $25 a month and now it's $50 a month, like, I'm not going to leave. Like, forget that, right? So the people stay because they're getting a good deal. So that's one option. Another option is to create another level. And, and what I would do is I would just I just grandfather the members that you've already got into the higher level. Just like, let them stay in at that higher level at the lower price. Like, give them the benefit of that because they were the ones that joined you in the early days. But from that day forward, you can raise the price for that higher level and introduce an introductory level for the membership. Just kind of like what, like I shared with you, like Christy Hawkins did. She has her higher price membership and she spun off and created a second lower front end membership. And it was the same thing that we were talking about here, whereas, she saw there was a need just to get people started and created a whole separate membership just for that. So I think that you can either create levels or two different memberships. But the most important thing is take care of your existing members, like grandfather them in, let them have full access. But from that point forward, start clean and move forward with the direction that you want to go.
But it sounds like you would keep it in membership, just a tiered membership, or raise the price, not necessarily sunset membership turn into course.
No, like 100%. Yeah, there's absolutely ways to be able to keep it as a membership. And it's not to say that you can't pull out content from the membership and turn that into its own standalone course. By all means, I think that there's plenty of opportunity to do that. But I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater here.
Got it. Okay.
Because that's not necessarily the issue.
So then, what if I hear what you're saying, and this might be a short answer, do you believe that a membership, even if it's a front-end membership, can be a flagship or a signature offer for someone then?
100%. I'll give you an amazing example of this. So 5 years ago, when I hosted my first ever workshop, there was a gentleman in the audience. His name was Jabril. And shortly afterwards, he partnered with a woman named Tiffany Eliche. Now, Tiffany had an audience of about 10,000 people on Facebook, and she was predominantly teaching women how to better manage their money. Now, Jabril, he's a great behind the scenes guy. He's not necessarily the expert in managing money by any means, but he's a behind the scenes guy. And he came together with Tiffany and they created a front end membership. Now, this membership has grown over the last 5 years significantly. And in January of this year, and actually just last month, I was talking to him again. Jabril, he was giving me updates. He gives me updates every year since. And they've grown this membership from, initially a few hundred members to then thousands of members to then tens of thousands of members. Now, 5 years later, he has more than 40,000 members in this membership. And they haven't gone and built out other, courses and masterminds and all that stuff. They've just focused on the one front end offer, which is that membership. All roads lead to that membership. Now, this is a multi 8-figure a year business. Tiffany's coming out with her book now. And that's going to be, a New York Times bestseller. And they've got this mega audience of over 40,000 paying monthly members. And that has opened up opportunities for them, but it's all because they've stayed hyper-focused on that one front-end offer.
I love it. That's fantastic advice. Stu, my friend, we are flat out of time. That was rapid fire. We covered a lot of ground here very quickly, but I appreciate your time. I think this is a tremendous insight. I know my audience specifically had a lot of questions around this, so I appreciate your wisdom and insight on the matter.
Yeah, my pleasure. And, I would just encourage people we have a free workshop coming up April 22nd. I would encourage people to come and join us. It's 100% free. I'm sure you'll be able to share the link with them where they can
Please,
go find
what's
out
the
more.
link?
I'll hook you up with the link and you can include it in the show notes and so forth. But bottom line is I encourage everybody. Now is the time. Now is an amazing time. There are things that we can do now that we can't do 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And it's opened up more opportunity for us as entrepreneurs to help more people. I'm deeply connected to not only what this does for us as entrepreneurs, but the opportunity it creates for us to impact so many other people. And because it's not just us, it's all of the members that we are now collectively serving, whether we're helping them, improve their relationships or improve their health or improve their business or what have you. What we are doing is having a profound impact in helping people improve their lives. That's what a membership is all about, while also creating incredible stability and predictability in the business. This is why I'm passionate about this, because the last year has taught us more than anything that as entrepreneurs, this is what we need. We need more stability, more predictability in our business because we just never know what's going to happen. So I just encourage everybody, come join us for the free workshop. It's all happening April 22nd. We'll hook you up with the link in the show notes. But yes, thank you so much for having us.
All right, guys. Yeah, the link will be in the show notes, and I'll also include links to connect with Stu on social media. Stu, you're the man. I appreciate you, my friend.
Cheers. Thanks so much.
All right, bye-bye.